The beta is finally out and everyone's trying out the new elite specializations. I decided the first class I'd try out was Galeshot. I was extremely excited to test it out with its Gale Bow. We all have our opinions and today I will be sharing mine about Galeshot. First of all, I'd like to go over the traits that comes along with Galeshot. The first trait is Joy of Movement. This exists. Moving on, we have Feel the Rush. This is probably the best trait in this line due to its endurance gain. This allows you to get extra dodges quicker to help with survivability, which you will definitely need. The third is the skill for damage increase. This probably is good in PvE for DPS reasons, but in World vs. World, there's really not too much use to it. For the second trait line, we start off with Flock Together. I thought this was going to be amazing because it would give a nice amount of quickness for your longbow and galebow bursts. However, I was wrong, because I didn't realize till later that it has a 20-second internal cooldown. 20 seconds! If it didn't have the internal cooldown, I might think about using it, but until then, it just doesn't seem worth it. The next trait changes your Galebow 4 skill to have 2 charges but removes Immobilize. I feel like this is probably fair because one of the traits in the final column synergizes really well with this. But it's still sad to see the Immobilize of the skill go. The third trait lets you stay in your Galebow for a longer period of time due to it giving you arrows every time you swap pets. This in World v World is probably not a good choice though because you are extremely vulnerable while in your Gale form. Starting out the final trait column, we have Cloudburst. This is probably my favorite trait out of the Galeshot, and it makes your Galebow 2 refresh whenever using Galebow 4 or 5. Which pairs really well with the trait that lets Galebow 4 get 2 charges. You can end up using Galebow 2 4 times in fairly quick succession. The next trait I can see being useful due to its movement speed increase and the fact that it's passively added on. The final trait is another trait that I feel like would be great for PvE DPS but not so much for World vs. World. It might be good if you're building a huge burst with Longbow and Galebow, but otherwise I'm leaving it for PvE. When it comes to its skills, I don't find any of them to be very exciting. The heal gives super speed and Condi cleanse, which is great, but when you head onto your utilities, you got a whole skill that's a leap, but doesn't even leap that far. It works as an evade too, but the only useful part I feel like from this is going to be the super speed to help with survivability. It's fine and all, but when you compare it to similar skills like lightning reflexes, you can see it quickly loses its value. It's not a stun break and it doesn't provide you vigor, which helps your survivability with getting your evades back. Sure, it's a squall, which helps with some traits, but only having super speed just seems too simple. There's also Wind Shear, which can be useful for the extra CC to lock down opponents, plus it's a stun break and it can reflect missiles, which is a great idea, but it just feels like it got everything, while everything else didn't. Piercing Gales is also a nice skill that's unique with its velocity increase when swiftness or super speed is applied on you, but that doesn't really make a big difference and its damage isn't the best. Of course, this is in the testing phase, so I can see it getting more or less damage later on, but for now it just doesn't seem to be great outside of the vulnerability that it gives. Also, it is nice that it does have Pierce. I'll get to why I mentioned this later. The other utility is a wall that allows your arrows to freeze after passing through them. This is another great idea, but it feels like it's just lacking in World vs. World, as all it does is give your arrows chill. When you're moving around constantly to try to survive, you're not going to be able to position it correctly to actually use it, other than starting off a combat with a burst. For the elite, I'm really happy with it. It's an unblockable CC that also does damage. I'm pretty sure it still can be blocked by stability, but it's still nice having that AoE unblockable CC. Now I'm going to be talking about what I don't like and what I like about it. Starting with what I like about it. I love the idea of Galebow. It's nice being able to enter and exit whenever you want. It allows for catching people off guard or having extra skills when you run out. Having 2 weapon sets outside of Galebow is extremely nice as well, because you can pair it with a lot of mobility from weapons like greatsword, staff, or even regular sword. The trait that allows Galebow 2 to refresh after using Galebow 4 or 5 is also really nice. It makes it feel a lot more usable and makes its damage not seem as low. Another thing I like is that I feel like I am speed. I am speed. With all of its movement speed buffs and super speed and swiftness. The elite skill looks cool and seems to work well, and it's great that it's unblockable. Now to start off what I don't like about Galeshot, we have that it doesn't have any stability at all. It has none. Untamed, Soul Beast, and even Druid all have some type of stability which helps with its survivability. But with Galeshot, it has no stability at all. It doesn't even have any ranger skills that have stability. So you're just without stability and you can get pulled and pushed really easily and locked down if you don't have any stun breaks. This makes it so you almost have to have at least 3 stun breaks on you at all times, which makes building around it kind of difficult. Some of the utilities to me just seem way too simple in what they provide. They're all unique and everything, but when one skill just gives me super speed and some evade, that's not as exciting. And I also haven't tried these in PvE, so this could be totally different than what's in World vs. World. I know one of the traits, which is also what I don't like, one of the other traits provides quickness in PvE, but no quickness in World vs. World. I was really looking forward to having quickness in World vs. World because I would be able to get my longbow and Galebow bursts out really quickly, but that's not a thing. Another thing is Galebow 1 and 2 both don't pierce. There's no trait that makes them pierce either. It would be nice with it being one of the main mechanics that the specialization has for it to actually be able to do more. Like even Longbow is able to pierce with a trait. I wouldn't mind having a Galebow trait that pierces for Galebow 1 and 2. That would be really helpful. But it has nothing for it. So I'm just stuck with using Galebow 1 and 2 without any pierce. And yes, I know that it makes sense that it doesn't pierce, but it would be nice. Another thing is that, of course, which makes sense, that Galebow is a projectile, which means if you're going in Zergs, well, your main mechanic of your class is going to be completely useless. The only skill that's able to actually do something in a Zerg would be Gale 4, which only has 2 charges if you pick the trait. And even then, it's still not that much damage. Also, damage-wise, I feel like it's just really lacking. I've only had my Galebow 2 hit for around 5,000 damage on a target without any protection or buffs for damage reduction. This may seem like a lot, but when you compare it to Untamed Hammer 2, dealing 10,000 damage, or Soul Beast Longbow 2, dealing 20 to 25,000 damage, it really does seem low. But at least it does have that refresh, which lets it do more damage in the long run, but it just doesn't release as quickly. Plus, it is also in the beta state, and I will just chalk it up to me not having my gear or being bad at the game. Also, for Galebow 3, you would think it would have a better leap backwards, especially since you're controlling air and you would think it would push you back further. Plus, Shortbow 3 has a much longer leap. It would help a lot more with survivability because at the moment, it just feels like if you use it, you're dead because your enemy would easily be able to tell when you're leaving your evade and would just basically guarantee a hit afterwards. Also, another thing is that it only has 1 heal. It may not seem like a big deal, but all the other Ranger Elite specializations have 2 or more heals and sustain. Soul Beast, for example, has Dolly X Dance, your normal heal, Protect Me, and even an option for a supportive pet that provides you with a great heal. While Druid has a whole healing form and other healing utilities, and Untamed has great sustain from its barrier using its cantrips. Yes, this is a trait, but it still exists. I know they were probably trying to stick with the feeling that a ranger should be squishy because they're always in the back line, but this can start to make a lot of solo content become a lot more difficult. I like the idea of this class, and I really hope at least a few of these things change, because I would love to play this a lot in the future. Anyways, those were my first thoughts on Galeshot for World vs. World. I haven't stepped foot in PvE with this character, other than Lion's Arch, and I can see it being quite powerful there. For World vs. World, I just feel like it's lacking overall, but I love the idea. I would also like to mention I did not change the normal specializations that much. I'm sure you could have made it tankier and more sustainable with traits from Wilderness Survival, but I decided just to stick with skirmishing and marksmanship throughout the testing. Let me know in the comments below what you think about it, or if you agree or disagree on anything that I've mentioned. Now it's time for me to test out the rest of the classes when the beta comes back after it's all fixed. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of these, and have a great day.